Hello and welcome to today's episode that deals with basic elements and principles of graphics. Our subject expert is Atul Sinha, an assistant professor who teaches graphics and animation at the Anwar Jamal Kidwai Mass Communication Research Center, Jamia Millia Islamia in New Delhi. I am Shivangi Anand. In today's session, we will cover the following: a brief definition of design, defining graphic design, elements of graphics, principles of graphics, and finally how to create a better understanding of these concepts. Design is commonly considered in the context of the communication, applied arts, architecture, and other such creative endeavors, and is used both as a noun and a verb. As a verb, the term to design refers to the process of creating and developing a plan for a product, structure, or component. As a noun, the term a design is used for both the final plan and the result of applying that plan and the result of that process. Let us examine the definition of design by William R. Miller. Design is the thought process comprising the creation of an entity. This simple definition of design is built on the solid foundation of ideas and concepts that will serve as the very root of our philosophy of design.
Every design has got certain elements and principles. Without these principles and elements, design is incomplete. I think if you make a chair, you see it has every element. It has line, it has shape, it has direction of line, and it has color, it has value, it has contrast. So when you look at these things, these elements, and we form a design, then we add principles of design, which gives it a taste, which gives it a rhythm, which gives it a dominance and balance. So we have to use principles and designs, then only we can make a tasteful design, because when we look at a design, we taste it through our eyes. It's like a music. We taste our music by our ears, but when we talk of a design or a painting or a sculpture, anything as such, so we taste it through our eyes.
It is first thought, or that type of thought we call insight. This directly sees the potential connection between problem and possibility. Design is also intuition, or that form of subconscious thought that leads us to a deeper sense of knowing. Design also involves reason. It is that fully conscious form of thought that considers the problem and evaluates the possibilities for solution. Finally, design is the synthesis of all these three aspects of thought: insight, intuition, and reason, that forms the complete and provable conceptualization of options. Design is the activity of creation. It is a sequence of events and procedures that lead to the creation of the object that is being designed. This thought process also involves the various activities associated with thought: speaking, writing, drawing, modeling, and constructing. Design is the process used to create that entity. What is important is that the total thought process of design encompasses a wide variety of procedural structures. Therefore, it cannot be restricted to one particular procedure. Depending on what is being designed, this process can include the identification of a set of needs, the primary conceptualization of a way to meet those needs, the further development of that primary concept, the engineering and analysis required to make sure it works, the prototyping of its primary form, the construction of its final form, the implementation of various quality control measures, selling its value to the consumer, its delivery to the consumer, providing for after service, and obtaining the feedback regarding its utility and value. Each of these steps add to the generation of form and is thus part of the design process. The creation of this reality serves as a crucial point. Without creation, the process is either incomplete or logically unsound. Each design process must include its own act of creation rather than copying or imitating it.
I think nature is the best thing to teach the best design. Nature is the great master. Before we teach them, we have to take them to the open in the nature and get them study and sketch the trees, leaves, anything whatever there is in nature, because that will give them, nature is a master, that will give them the complete mastery over sketching and designing. See, look at my hand. This is a complete informal design. God has given us this gift. See, it has every element in my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. It has a rhythm, it has a repetition, it has balance, and it has power. See, if you use these 4 fingers, it has less power. The moment you use this finger, thumb in it, it becomes complete control. So this is very strong. So when you use a contrast in a design and contrast element in a design, this is contrast here. When we use with these elements, so this forms a strong design, a strong power. Like that in painting or design, we have contrast elements. So we have to add contrast. It develops a taste and it gives it more. It gives design a more strength. So see this area, like this area and this area, a solid area, and this block here, this is a visual block here. So this compensates the whole thing here. So when you talk of these two things here, my hand, so this is a formal design, very simple formal design. This is an informal design. So God has given us these designs because our body is a beautiful architecture. So when we talk of this informal design, so this becomes formal. This is a static design. It's like a Taj Mahal. So from both sides this is same. So it becomes a static. So this is the informal, which has more dynamic feeling.
The product of the design process can be physical, temporal, conceptual, relational. Each of these entities can be designed. An entity can be designed, that is, it can be created with intent and purpose. The total thought process covering the creation of that entity, the process that gives its form, be it physical, temporal, conceptual or relational, is design. Graphic design is the process of communicating visually using text and images to present information. Graphic design practice embraces a range of reasoning skills, aesthetics and crafts, including typography, visual arts and page layout. Like other forms of design, graphic design often refers to both the process by which the communication is created and the products which are generated.
See, when you talk of a design, suppose you have to design a simple logo and you want to use it on a letterhead. So you just a letterhead here. Suppose if you use it from this side, this is a very important side for a letterhead. If you use this side, this is a dead area, because here this area will go inside the filing, most of the area. So this area becomes visible. So this area is very important for the logo, and we can utilize this area. How much logo and how much will be the big logo there, that's very important. So here if I have a small logo, there is no problem. If it's little bit bigger, it creates a problem, it creates a visual tension. So always a logo should be a beautiful and within that area here and with a good spacing, and that will create more interest.
Design elements and principles are the basic visual tools of design strategies in every visual design discipline. The elements form the basic vocabulary of visual design, while the principles constitute the broader fundamental aspects of the composition. The elements of design are the basic components used as a part of any composition. They are the objects to be arranged and the basic parts used to create the composition itself.
Elements of design are the foundation of any composition, drawing or a painting. These are the basic building blocks without which the actual creation can't exist. After gaining a proper understanding of the elements, one needs to learn how to apply them in a proper way. That information is learned by understanding the principles of graphics and design, and practicing the same for creating different ideas and design will provide us a better experience to manipulate it in a better way and a better application.
In most situations, the elements of design build upon one another, the former element helping to create the latter. We will be focusing on the elements point, line, form, texture, color, space, pattern and time. A point is an element that has position but no extension. It is a single mark in space with a precise location. Alone, it can provide a powerful relation between negative and positive space. Line or form is a natural result of multiple points in space. Even if there is only one point, one mark on a blank page, there is something built into the brain that wills meaning for it and seeks some kind of relationship or order, if only to use it as a point of orientation in relation to the outline of the page. If there are 2 points, the eye will immediately make a connection and see a line. If there are 3 points, it is unavoidable to interpret them as a triangle. The mind supplies the connections. This compulsion to connect parts is described as grouping or gestalt.
Every design has a meaning. Even a single dot on a piece of paper or a white sheet has a meaning. Now, it depends where is the dot placed. Its center, corner or upper middle. Maybe it's in the middle of the sheet. Now, it may signify focus to me or something else to you. It's the interpretation which depends.
A line is a mark made by a moving point and having psychological impact according to its direction, weight, and the variations in the direction and weight. Lines can be combined with other lines to create textures and patterns. This is common in engravings and engravings of pen and ink.
Line plays, a greater role in painting. The lines are in different nature or different categories. There is a horizontal line, there is a vertical line. There are, curved lines are there. Then there is the zigzag lines are there. So these all lines play a role in any kind of art form, either it is a sculpture or painting.
Line also communicates emotion and states of mind through its character and direction. Horizontal line suggests a feeling of rest. Objects parallel to the earth are at rest in relation to gravity. Compositions in which horizontal lines dominate tend to be quiet and restful in feeling. One of the hallmarks of Frank Lloyd Wright's architectural style is its use of strong horizontal elements which stress the relationship of the structure to the land. Vertical lines communicate a feeling of loftiness and spirituality. Erect lines seem to be extend upwards beyond human reach toward the sky. Extended perpendicular lines suggest an overpowering splendor. Diagonal lines suggest a feeling of movement or direction. Since objects in a diagonal position are unstable in relation to gravity, they are either about to fall or are already in motion, as is certainly the case for this group of dancers. In a two-dimensional composition, diagonal lines are also used to indicate depth and illusion of perspective. Deep, acute curves suggest confusion and disorder. It even can be rage like the violence of waves in a storm. The curves used to form the mother in the family group shown above suggest an ornate, playful personality. Curved lines, soft, shallow curves suggest comfort, safety, familiarity, comfort. They recall the curves found in nature and therefore have a beautiful, sensual quality. It is possible to identify the soft, irregular lines of a quick sketch from life, as seen in this study of a lion. Form and shape are areas of masses which define objects in space. They cannot exist without space. There are various ways to categorize form and shape.
You give a simple white space to the students, suppose A4 size paper, then give a one card, visiting card or black visiting card, then tell them to cut this card in different sizes and see how they will arrange the cutting piece, these arrangements, these pieces in that A4 size. And that will develop their visualization, because they have to be, their visualization is supposed to be strong. Then we can develop their visualization by arranging these basic shapes in a particular area or in a particular white area.
When we talk about sculpture, we talk about form, and there is a difference between form and shape. When we talk about shape, shape is a form which can be drawn on canvas, on a paper or any surface, which is which has got 2 dimensions only. But when we say form, form is a sculpture, sculpture has got 3 dimensions. It has got length, width, breadth and depth also.
Form and shape can be thought of as either two-dimensional or three-dimensional. Two-dimensional forms have width and height. Three-dimensional shapes have depth as well as width and height. Form and shape can also be described as organic or geometric. Texture is the quality of an object which we sense through touch. Also what we can see and thereafter imagine the sensation as if we have felt it. Textures are of many kinds: rough, bumpy and hard. This is what we usually think of as a texture. Wet or dry are also textures. In fact, any touch sensation we can imagine is a texture. Color is the response of sight to differing wavelengths of radiation within the visible spectrum. Color is one of the most powerful of elements due to its expressive qualities.
Design has got a very important principle and element, that is color. So we should know the color, the meaning of color and its application. As a painter, suppose I have to use, I want a green color, a beautiful green color. What I do, I have to have first a yellow, light brown color first coat, then I'll use green over that, and that green will look really beautiful. Suppose I need a beautiful brown color, so I have to have a green base there. This was what Impressionists used to do. Color gives us taste. You just take a very simple thing. Suppose in your study room, you have got a red mobile and you have a book which has a blue cover. You put this red mobile on your book and see the tension creates. Suppose you want to study on that writing table there, and this blue and red will create tension because they are both complementary colors, they are both psychedelic colors, they won't let you study. So you have to always avoid contrast colors in your study rooms, in your sitting rooms, in your drawing rooms.
There are three main components of color. Hue. Hue is the correct word to use to refer to just the pure spectrum colors. Any given color can be described in terms of its value and hue. Value. Value is the general lightness or darkness of a color. Saturation. The intensity or level of chroma of a color. Space is a framework from which we can quantify distances between objects or points. When we look around us, something seems close while some seem further away.
As far as sculpture is concerned, when we talk about sculpture, sculpture also acquires the space. You can see this particular sculpture has, it has occupied the whole space over here. And there are two important aspects of space as well as sculpture. Sculpture, when you install the sculpture somewhere, it is going to enhance the area or the ambience of the spot specific, which is meant for sculpture, or it is going to disturb. But as far as when we say the form in any manner, you can see if I shift from here to here, this is going to change the whole frame. So that the space matters a lot.
We can create illusion of depth by using the following ways. Size and vertical location. Since objects in our environment look smaller when they are farther away, the easiest way to show depth is to vary the size of objects, with closer objects being larger and more distant objects being smaller. Overlapping. When objects are somewhat hidden by other objects in front of them, we perceive them as further back than the covering objects. We do not see them as unfinished forms, just further back. Detail. Atmospheric perspective uses color and value contrast to show depth. Objects which are further away generally have less distinct contrast. They fade into the background or become blurry dark areas. The foreground objects will be clear with sharper contrast. Linear perspective. Linear perspective is based on the idea that all lines will join on a common point on the horizon called the vanishing point. Pattern is a core structure that organizes surfaces or structures in a constant, regular manner. Pattern exists in nature as well as in designed objects. Grids are the foundation for any structure or image. Points of a grid can be connected and can be seen in any situation, in nature and in man-made images. Movement is the design element that operates in the fourth dimension, which is time. Movement is the process of relocation of objects in space over time. Another way to think about movement is to consider how the viewer's eyes move through the composition. In this case, we consider how the viewer perceives the composition, how the components relate and lead the viewer's attention. This type of movement can be classified as static, that is, movement of the eye that jumps and hops between separate components of the image, attracted by similarities and simply shifting. Movement may also be classified as dynamic. Movement of the eye that flows smoothly from one area of the composition to another characterizes dynamic movement. The principles are used in all visual design. These principles govern the relationships of the elements used and organize the composition as a whole. There are 6 principles: scale, proportion, unity, balance, direction, and emphasis.
When we talk about the principles of art or painting, see, you can see this particular picture. This is a painting as well as a sculpture. You can see there are embossed places over here. The relief, we have added the pigment on this particular material on this canvas board. Then comes one of the first and foremost is the proportion or a scale of any work. You can see I have shown a moon over here. Then we have human figures here and here. As we see, if we go to coastal areas or some hilly areas, we feel the moon is quite big, and we feel ourselves we are very tiny in front of the particular moon. Since it cannot be as big, the human being cannot be as big as a moon, but since it's very far away from us, so here I have shown that moon is in our compound, as if it is in our compound, and I have shown this particular proportion of moon, and these human figures are proportionate as well here.
Scale, overall size. Much of the impact of monumental artworks such as Mount Rushmore is its sheer size. Scale and proportion. These two design principles work in sync, as both are related to size and shape. Proportion has to do with the ratio of one design element to another or one element to the whole. Scale concerns itself with the size of one object compared to another. Repetition of visual elements such as shapes or colors create a rhythm and pattern in an artwork, creating a sense of harmony and unity that pulls the picture together. There are numerous ways to achieve unity. Let us look at some of them. Proximity. The simplest method of making objects appear to belong together is to group them closely together. This allows us to see a pattern. Repetition. Repetition of color, shape, texture or object can be used to tie a work together. Continuation. A much more subtle method of unifying a work involves the continuation of line, edge or direction from one area to another. Continuation is often used in books and magazines to tie the elements of a page together with the use of rules and by lining up edges of a copy. Headlines and graphics. Balance, equalizing the visual weight of elements. This can be symmetrical, asymmetrical, and radial. Symmetrical balance is characterized by the same objects repeated in the same position on either side of a vertical axis. Asymmetrical balance is achieved with some different objects that have equal visual weight or eye attraction. Asymmetrical balance is more casual and less contrived in feeling, but more difficult to achieve. Asymmetry suggests movement and leads to more lively design. Radial symmetry is when all the elements of a design are arrayed around a center point. A spiral staircase is also an excellent example of radial balance. Direction is the visual path our eye will follow. Emphasis refers to the object or element which first catches our attention. Emphasis is also referred to as point of focus or interruption. It marks the settings in a composition which most strongly draw the viewer's attention. The emphasis is usually a pause in the fundamental pattern or movement of the viewer's eye through the composition or a break in the rhythm. We can conclude that to better understand these terms, we need to actively think about them while working or creating a design or concept. We also need to observe and look closely at works of art for better understanding of these concepts.
It's only by practicing and applying these elements and principles to create something that will give you a better understanding of these fundamental tools.
In today's session, we discussed the definition of design and graphic design. We also tried to understand various elements and principles of graphics that included point, line, form, texture, color, space, pattern, time and also scale, proportion, unity, balance, direction and emphasis. We also attempted to understand these concepts more clearly. That is all we have for today. Hope it has been a good learning experience. Thank you and goodbye.